Okay, welcome everybody. We have Scott Redler here. Scott is here to help us make sense of the markets as always. My name is Michael Camo. I'm Director of Content for T3 Live. And of course, Scott Redler is our Chief Strategic Officer. And every Friday, we like to get together and try to figure out what's going on with Scott's help. So, Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm
And
doing all
don't
right.
lie, be honest.
I'm okay. I feel like some of the action today got underneath my skin a little bit, but overall, when you take a step back and you look at the action of the last 3 weeks or so, when you look back at it, it's like, wow, it was so easy. I should have made gazillions and gazillions and gazillions. And then you look at the way some of these things traded, and you're like, why did it happen that way? The bottom line is the computers, again, really good at what they do. It's our job to make sure that we stay in control. We control our process. We control our time frame that we're approaching the market with, and not overdo things, and just realize that it just sometimes you overcomplicate it, and I feel like I overcomplicated it just a little bit. So I'm kind of taking a step back, looking at things, and overall, it's been a really, really methodical, great trading week since April 19th low. So sometimes you look back and you're like, wait, I should have made so much more. But then sometimes you just also have to be happy with how you navigated it, and appreciate some small wins.
Okay, everybody out in the audience, let us know where you are from. Where are you listening from? We have our friend on the edge from Iowa. So Scott, you said that looking back, it looked easy. Doesn't it always look
Yeah.
easier in the rearview mirror? Like, isn't that the problem, that when you look back, it all looks logical?
That's why sometimes you look back. So this way, when you look back and you see the way things kind of took place and transpired, that next time the sequence happens, you just do it better, and you don't get surprised. I've been doing this since 1998, and I still sometimes get surprised. But I feel like there were some really good moments this week where we made different choices and adjusted our risk and our hedges and our positions. But then there are some things where I'm just like, wait, why did I do that? Or why didn't I do this? And those are some of the things that in the mind you have to deal with, because as a trader that gets judged every day by their P&L, or every week or every month, and it's really easy to get in your own head. So sometimes you just have to take a step back and say, hey, I could have done this better, or hey, I made some good choices here. It's all about just making good choices in the moment and dealing with the situation in front of you. They say, like, what life is 90, what is it? Is it it's 90-10. So 90% it's 10% of what the situation is. It's 90% how you approach the situation. So depending on how you approach and how you deal with it, is what's in your control. The situation or the circumstances aren't. So if you approach a circumstances, objective, and you make the right choices each day, that's all you could do. And if the circumstances, aren't, just a little bit different, or surprising, or things you can't help, then that's it. You just move on, and you wait for the next opportunity to come in front of you.
Okay, well said, Scott. We'll take a little roll call. We have Iowa, Florida, Texas, Daytona Beach, Caracas, Venezuela, India, of course, is always represented, San Francisco. We have Brandon from Millburn, New Jersey, of course. That's
Is that Red
Scott's
Pup?
place. I don't know. Brandon Pavlik? Do we know
No,
Brandon?
that's not
I
Brand.
don't know.
No,
That's
no,
that.
Brandon. I
Okay,
miss
Scott.
Red Pup.
Let's pay a little tribute to our friend Greta. So Greta Wall, she will be coming back in a couple of months. She's on leave, so she always likes to grade everybody. So Scott, since the infamous April 19th blood on the street account buy, how would you rate your performance? And be honest, no lies.
I never lie. Come on. Um, Let me put the chart of the SPY up, and I'll grade myself, at each different level of the last 3 weeks, because it wasn't that easy, and things happen fast, and you can't control the actual, speed and tape of things. So let me share my screen. I know how to do this. I've been doing this every morning at the 6:30 Club. So here we are. So I have to give myself an A plus right here. I also give myself maybe a B here, because I did reduce risk when we had this head and shoulders top. I was out of most of my positions, and didn't get hurt really during this entire down move below the 8-day moving average. And right here, I remember it was Friday. It was when Israel, did some bombs to Iran. We were down like a lot overnight, and we weren't down as much intraday. And I remember, that day I tweeted, we emailed, I did the weekly charts, and I talked about how we bought the Blood in the Street account. Okay, I put a third of my wife's intermediate account to work. Not 25%, a third. She actually messed up, which was good. Put more money to work there because we were 5.5% off the highs. Typically in the Blood in the Street account, I usually start 5% or more. Back in the day, I used to do 10%, but it's hard to find that. So right here, we on the Blood in the Street account, we were buying for that, which a lot of people model their IRAs, some of their 401ks, and into this also. I don't know if you remember actively, because I talk about I have a swing account, an active account, an option account, and a box account. That's all my accounts that I get paid on monthly and quarterly, not just not just longer term, which is 401k, 403b, 529 in the Blood in the Street. So we go back to the chart, and into this, we were buying the 499 calls actively, saying, hey, I don't know if we're going to continue lower, because sometimes you get a sloppy sell program. And then PS bought the 499s, and you had your first move up to almost the target. The target was right here, if you remember. This is called the anatomy of the trade. Some guys are like, I don't want to relive this. You know what? You should relive it, because if you look back on the way you could have gone about this trade, then it helps you in the next active sequence. So if you remember, into that move, you had Meta and you had IBM. I actually took IBM options, and they were 0. But into this 10-point move, we made good money in the options. I got very flexible, because who knows if that was the oversold bounce. So then the next day you were able to buy, because both gapped down huge and made a higher low. Remember 497? So I'll give myself another. This one may be an A-, because we were able to buy that. Then it made a higher high. Okay. And then into this Fed meeting, okay, you had you had a bit of another pullback. I think Fed day, I give myself a B, because I started shorting that move up a little too early, and I didn't stick with it. Then I started buying a little bit too early, and then went all the way down to the lows. And then all of a sudden you had your red dog reversal on May 2nd. That was the day after the Fed day. And we are reliving this, because this is real time. And I'm sure if you trade for a living, you remember these moments. Into this moment, we weren't sure whether or not this was it. We were going to have this kind of rising channel here and break to the downside, but instead you had a red dog reversal that showed, hey, you know what, this market's back on track. And that was prior to the jobs report. So into this, it's hard to take a lot of risk into a jobs report. We took calls, and then you had this up, this nice up move, the wedge. I'm still in an A mode. I'm still playing the rally. And then into this move, I was like, you know what, it's 3 days higher. I think this could be resistance. And that's when I started shorting the premium, the 515 calls, the 516, 517s, because I'm like, you know what, the oscillator is plus 60 up here. We were buying minus 60 up here. It's plus 60. NVIDIA was acting well. Mega cap tech was taking its turn. So it was going really smooth. And then into this move, I shorted a little bit too much premium. I was down a lot of money. That's when I tweeted saying, hey guys, I think this move into the 515 to 518 area is a better sell than a buy. And then all you had is a move down to here, which was 515, if you remember. And I'm still giving myself an A. So far so good. I'm now back to almost the highs of my year. My high watermark, etc. Made money, got out of the premium sold. Again, I give you guys the most transparent view I could, and then we went back above this, started buying the SPYs. At this point, I'm still in Amazon. I'm still in Google. I'm trying to trade NVIDIA and Microsoft, trying to find, a tradable spot from Apple, and then a few other things. And then PS into this move, was working well. I started shorting some 521 premium, was long the SPYs. And then, you just had some faulty action. Today, I got to admit, I lost a little bit too much money in NVIDIA, because NVIDIA closed in the lows yesterday. If you remember, it was down on the ARM news and then up on the Taiwan semi today. And it gapped up and went really fast. And I started buying a dip, and I lost money there. Amazon, which I traded well. Remember, I'm like, guys, Amazon's going to be 190 plus. It went to 190, 170 yesterday, and then traded off into the end of the day, and just was not good. So lost money there today. And then Apple, which looked like it was getting better, gave back more than I thought it should today. Lost money there today. And, long story short, I think I lost more money today than I should have, considering that we had a big move into a prior high area where I knew we would be probably at least pausing ahead of the PPI and the CPI. So today I give myself a C minus because I gave back more money than I had to into a day I should have been I was up a lot of money at 920, and now I'm down a decent amount, and I'm not in the greatest of moods.
Okay. Scott, now Scott, you're usually in.
Is that a
Scott's
mouthful?
usually Scott. It's always a big mouthful with the Red Dog. But yeah, Scott is. It's interesting. You see, Scott says he's in a bad mood or not in a great mood, but he's still smiling and laughing. So Scott, let's wrap it up. So the last we'll call it 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm a little brain dead. So since April 19th, overall, what would you grade yourself? I would think, based on what you just said, it averages out to B plus or A minus. But what do you think?
Overall, amongst everything, like again, every time I buy the blood in the street account, if I always said if I just would put my swing account, 75% to work, I could make a few $1,000,000, and I never do that. Instead, I trade too cute. I made decent money, but like all of a sudden, my that account's up 3-4%, and if I would have just put more money to work and handled the algos a little bit better, I would have made a ton more money. So I would give myself a B minus overall, in overall Scott Redler world, between my active accounts I get paid for a living and my long-term accounts, a B minus. And and I had it pretty damn perfect. There should have been more than that, but next time it'll be a lot better.
Okay, Scott, do you ever believe in playing reverse psychology on yourself? I had this discussion with Sami Abusad the other day, where I know for myself, if I think something is about to collapse and I'm tempted to buy puts, I know I should actually buy calls. And if I think I should hedge something, I should actually buy more. Do you ever
No, I don't do
catch
that
yourself
game.
Go
I
on.
understand your logic. It's like self handicapping. You're like, oh, I'm not really good at this, and then you're good at it, or I'm really horrible at this, but you're not so bad. In trading, you have to do the right play. You have to. There's no reverse psychology. If something feels like it, you should be buying it. Usually, that's your inner voice telling you should be buying it because you've been sitting in this chair for 30 years, and your inner trading voice tells you the right thing and the wrong thing to do. Same way, if you're in something and it doesn't feel right and you're hoping and praying it holds in and doesn't go lower, typically your voice is telling you, you know what, salvage this trade. You'll save money and you won't lose money. So for me, that reverse psychology doesn't work. Usually it's really just listening to your inner voice, which is giving you the right way to go about your trades. So as a trader, it's good to be like, oh, I'm not a great short, and then you make some money short. It's really cute. Like me, I'm not a great short, but I tend to make money when I short. But I'm not as comfortable as being a long. But I don't do the reverse psychology, because then you're always like trying to play games. The stock market's not a game. It's a game of probabilities, and usually you know the right and the wrong thing to do. So if you focus on the right thing to do more often, then you're probably going to make a lot more money than lose, as you navigate your career moving forward.
Okay, all right. So in just a second, we'll dig into what's coming down the pipe, because we got a busy week coming next week. But let us know in the chat, what was your best trade of the week? Like, let us know. Put the ticker in the chat of what made you the most money over the past week. Okay, so Scott, so big question everybody's asking is, how much gas does this market have left? I saw your positions. It looks like you flattened out a bit today. Next week, we have the PPI, the CPI, Walmart earnings, a couple of more things. How much gas do you think this market has left in the tank?
Well, let's go back to the chart of the SPYs. If you go back here, you'll see that we had a pretty big move from May 2nd, which was the post-Fed meeting, all the way up to the prior highs here. So with the way that we rallied with the participation in mega cap, the participation in the small caps, in the banks, in energy, in commodities, it feels like this isn't going to get taken out. It's just a matter of what's going to happen now. Like, you have your low from today. Do we digest, today for the rest of the day today, maybe on Monday, and then if we could go sideways here a little bit into the PPI and CPI, and if both of them come in kind of light, the market bulls want the narrative to be Goldilocks, and if that's the case, I think we take out this 524.61, and then we'll see how far we go. Is it a real breakout? Do we hold? How do the leaderships look? How are the names reacting? So, although we just had a really nice reflex move, the question is, do we hold here? Do we retrace to 515-ish before going? But overall, it feels like we're going higher. And I always say historically over the last 100 years, the bull market wins. That's why you put monthly flows in every single month, and you'll make money, long term for retirement and for college. But short term, it's a little bit harder here. We're a little extended from the 8-day. We could digest and go sideways. This was only a 2-day digestion before we continued. So we'll see what type we have this. Will we hold here? Will we hold here? Will we see this? All three could potentially happen between now and Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'm a little bit lighter. I did come in with like 10 positions today, and now I only have 2 with a few options. So I traded this, pretty well. And we'll see how we go. But, then you go to the weekly chart, and, the weekly chart, we broke this ascending channel here. If the bears had any power, okay, they probably would have rejected price right around here. Instead, now all of a sudden, we're right back into this area. So now, here's your high end of the channel, your low end of the channel. Here's your middle area. We're in this upper area. So we'll see, do we need to hang here a little bit to take that out? But overall, the bears had no power to reject price. So I would think in time we take that out. I'd rather see a little bit of sideways beforehand, but we'll see. Overall, though, the bull market and price action in the last week or two has been very healthy overall. In perspective, I think.
Okay, all right. So do you next direction resting on the CPI and PPI report? So it looks like people's inflation expectations are going up. I mean, it's reflected in the economic data. Anybody who buys food or anything else knows that prices for everything are going through the roof. So do you think it's like the next phase will be dictated by the CPI and PPI next week?
Yeah. I think if we're going to get above 524 or the all-time highs, we need the CPI and PPI to come down next week. If they come in hot, then we're probably going to fail at this end of the range, and we'll need more time in the range. If they come down, and we could potentially, which I spoke about on Fox Business on Wednesday, if they can come down and then all of a sudden, rates come off a little bit and we had a decent earnings period, then 2 maintenance cuts get figured in for September and the end of the year, and chances are we could lift to new highs, and we'll have to be involved with names that are acting really well. And there's a group of names that are acting really well. They just sometimes trade a little bit more difficult on a day-to-day basis, but overall, a lot of these sequences are still intact.
Okay. Okay. So, So how are you like handicapping things? Like, what do you think the chances are? I mean, where the SPY's like, what is it, like $4 or $5 from all-time highs? Like, what are the chances you think we break through that next week?
Next week, say 70%. I'd give a better average chance, but I think we hang here for another 2 days. And then it's just about like positioning and things that have a good, chance of working higher. And how do you do it into binary events like the CPI and PPI? So, Mike, should we run down through what things look like in mega cap in the Mag 7? Because the Mag 7 hasn't been the Mag 7 for the last 3 months. It's been very specific. Every week or two, there's been really good opportunities in some of the names, and sometimes they're a little trappy. So I think it's really what names are you going to use as a vehicle in order to make money the next few weeks, if the market's going to get above that spot, and how do you quantify your risk?
Yeah. Oh, let's get to that in 1 second. But before we do that, so in terms of your actually trading, are you thinking I'm going to wait to see the reports and then I'll jump in if things like they're moving in the right direction? Because it looks like you don't want to take too much risk going in.
It depends on how we hang today. Tomorrow, I have some options for next Friday for things to continue. I did play a lot of things to the upside this week, and I did very well there. So it's not a bad idea to take risk off after 4 or 5 days into weekly highs ahead of an all-time high. So that's why I reduced today. We'll see where we are on Monday, and I'll see what type of options I want to play. If I don't feel like I could be, really long into them, just in case we get a leg sweep. The last thing you want as a trader is a leg sweep. Same way I don't take I don't take stock into earnings reports because anything can happen. I'd rather take options. But some things I probably will have on, but then I will probably go with options based on things I don't want to miss or things that look set up. Or like you said, I'll just wait till see the reports and go day by day and not have FOMO about missing out. But I do think that there's still a lot of quality setups. You also have, the Microsoft event on Monday, of the Google event on Tuesday, and then you still have the Apple event in weeks from now. So there's still a lot of, besides just those two reports, there's going to be some conferences discussing, AI metrics and AI potential products. So there'll be a lot to do. So, I know today I felt like everyone had FOMO, like, oh my God, I'm missing out. Yeah, the video, it's gapping up because of Texas, not Texas Instruments, because of Taiwan Semiconductor. And then if you would have bought in the first 30 minutes, things came in pretty hard. Whereas we knew the indices were stretched, but then the stocks that you didn't want to miss. And today was a little bit of a cluster. You know what? So it's about positioning into what you can handle for next week. And I think we'll have great setups or good setups. It's just we're not going to know where we kind of live until maybe more closer to Monday afternoon on how we want to position for Tuesday, Wednesday.
All right. So if you want to bring up the charts and work the magic,
there we go. So let's start off with Microsoft. Microsoft, to me, held in very well, held in a lot better than some of the, the other mega caps today. So this is poking its head above 414. I started buying Microsoft again into this area. I have stock, which didn't stop me out. Some things stopped me out today. Some things didn't. And this looks like you have this whole quadrant that if they come up with a really good event and they can't sell it, Microsoft hasn't done a whole lot of anything since February. So this is a nice long channel. If the market's going to hang in there, I think Microsoft is still in the game. Where I'm a little frustrated is Amazon. Although we had good prices on Amazon, I can't believe they went to an all-time high and pulled in the way it did again. It boggles my mind. But anyway, doesn't look like the end of the world. Like you look here, it's like, oh, this looks fine. But last time we went to an all-time high, it was there for a day, and then look how we pulled in, and then we come all the way back up, and it looked like we were ready to go yesterday. Then at the end of the day, it pulled in, and then today was weaker. And although it's still like that's why I said you look back, it's like, wait, it still looks fine, right? It's above the 8-day, it's hanging here, but if you would have paid up for it, it hurt. So today I lost a decent amount of money in Amazon, but I still think this can go sideways and then wear enough people out to continue. I don't think this is it for Amazon. If you go to the weekly chart, you'll see how they mess with everybody. Here, it finally went to potentially a new all-time high above the double top, and look how fast it fell. And although it came came far up, but that wasn't fun. And then they had the audacity to do it again. So, but if you're not buying high to sell higher, it's been fine. But so the way this is traded is just not been so much fun, but still fine. But today and yesterday, just why it should have got above 190 and went to 195 yesterday. But what I think it should have done, just didn't do it. So it is what it is. Then you had Apple. Apple to me is still trying to hold the post, earnings gap, which it is. Came in a little bit, gave us a new level to trade against. But talking about confessions of a stock trader, did it really have to give all of yesterday back? I was long it, I added to it, and then I actually even sold it pre-market, some around 185, and for it to come in like that, kind of a pain in the ARSE, if you know what that is. So, but it's still fine. You could put this line here now. You could say, hey, I haven't traded it since this day, and you need to lose extra money. But if you're playing something to move, that was frustrating today. NVIDIA, kind of frustrating today. Although it's still up $10, it had to go $24 first before coming in. If you look here of just say NVIDIA, I think we all did a decent job in NVIDIA also. For me, I did not chase this first move, and then the what's it called? The VWAP was 907. So this happened in the first. It's just so funny how it happened so fast. It hit 914, right? So it hit 914 at what time? 947. So all of us who didn't have it overnight because it closed relatively weaker yesterday didn't give you a reason with a strong market just to be buying NVIDIA. Wow, NVIDIA's been the best stock. I don't want to miss it, right? So came into the VWAP. So bought it right around here thinking, hey, it just went and pulled in somewhere around here, and then that happened. That could hurt you. Not only did it, get into the gap from the morning, went a little bit below, and then it's been a whole lot of nothing. So this hurt me. And then if you look overall, you're like, hey, Red Dog, what's the matter with you? NVIDIA's fine. It's still above the 8-day. It's still just basing. It's still in this bull flag. But trading-wise, this trading move did not give you any reason to be in it, because you look at the SPYs yesterday. SPYs closed at highs, and NVIDIA basically closed on the lows. So actively, it gave you more of a reason to be either out of it. Some guys were short and they lost money, and they were really mad. But anyway, all in all, NVIDIA is fine. It's just a day in the life of not a great trade. And it can go sideways, and at some point, we'll see if this takes out the 922 to continue. But it's, little arc. So I don't even know why I'm talking about that. But because everyone that I know trades in NVIDIA, and a lot of people are upset. Your big 3-day move, and it's done a whole lot of nothing this week, where you could have easily got chopped up while markets had a little traction. Tesla, we did a great job. Tesla, we get out of the way earlier this week. Somebody's like, what's the matter with Tesla, Red Dog? You did so great there post earnings. I'm like, well, that was then. So this was your post earnings move. We had options. Some guys were long versus this. Me, I was trading. I got out here. You had that autonomous job and autonomous driving information, and then it looked fine. And then on this day, this day was May 7th. The market, I think, closed on highs. It closed on lows. We get out of the way when it broke below 182, and I haven't traded it since. And there hasn't been much to do. So sometimes you have to be like happy about small things you did. How did you adjust? Did you get stubborn? Did you follow your rules? This one we did. But again, going into next week, overall, why wouldn't we stop here, which we did? I was long SPYs themselves and short the calls, and now we'll see. Do we go sideways Monday, and then we'll see where we are and whether or not maybe we could take out this 522 to 524. But if the PPI is a little hot, we probably pull in more, and then we see what happens with the CPI. But for now, I'm a little bit more flexible going into the weekend, because we're a little overbought in the indices, and some things are acting better than others. But from day to day, it hasn't been the easiest trade, even though we've had traction to the upside. That's why I'm like, why don't I just put my whole swing account to work for, when I put my wife's blood in the street account, it could have been millions instead of, trying to make, strategic money. So you have to line up everything just mentally, and then overall, it works out over time.
Okay. How about Scott? I know you're watching Google, because they have an event next week. Lots of news flow there. What are you seeing with Google?
Pain. No, I'm kidding. I lost money in Google today too. So, but again, it's funny. This is a really good lesson on what trade are you in for. Some people like, Red Dog, where do you put your stops? How do you adjust your size? And I say when the trade changes. So for me, I've been in Google, okay, and now it's coming up a little bit. So some guys like Red Dog, they were in it for this trade, and then it came in, and it obviously broke the post earnings gap, came into here. So then they rebought Google versus 162.60. If they did that, hey, they're doing just fine. They're making money. They haven't overtraded it. It's been very cute. It's been fine. All right, for me, I did get long here, and I bought options, and I sold half into there. And then yesterday it looked like it was, it was holding up well. I thought maybe we'd have a bull flag continuation pattern, and instead it looks a little bit different than it looked this morning, but it broke below 168.79, and I got stopped out of it. And the rest of my calls didn't work, so I lost money in Google today. So if you go look at Google, you can see why. Not because I'm a bad trader, but this is what happened with Google off the open. It gapped down. Oh my! Look at that freaking Google there, and it wound up rallying up a little bit, and then once it broke the low of the morning, which was here, I had to stop myself out. So I stopped myself out, and now look at this big move. So sometimes If you have my stop was here because who knows? It could have continued going down. It could have been, who knows, going into next week's, whatever conference or whatever it's doing. A little brain dead. It's Friday, but overall, if you were long here, verse 162, and you didn't add to it, you're still in it, and it actually wound up holding here. If you said, hey, I'm going to give it to 168.18, you got stopped out fast. So it all depends on how active you are and how much risk are you willing to take. And at this point, Google looks just fine. It's held above here. It's trying to struggle with the 8-day. It doesn't trade great. If they come out on their event and gets taken well and they can't sell it, Google could probably be above 171 and 174. And today all they did is shake out the red dog and some other traders. But so that's the whole thing you wrestle with your head is, what's your trade? My trade was holding this 3-day move to continue. And today it got hit fast and who knows where it could have went. So I reduced and I didn't overtrading it back in. If you're in it from here, you're fine. Same thing with Apple. If you're in Apple from 180.43, you don't care. You didn't add yesterday. So the question is, how are you maneuvering and what do you have to do next?
Okay, Scott, how about small caps? Because that's IWM's big topic of discussion. Like over long time frames, it's definitely underperformed. So light inflation, theoretically, it should lift. So what are you seeing there? And I'll be back in 1 second. I think my Amazon guy is here.
All right. I'll talk through a few. So the small caps, I haven't been as active. I've been more active in the SPYs and the Qs, mega cap tech, AI semis, uranium and gold, silver, crypto. I haven't really been that active in the small caps because it's been a little harder. It was fine. Small caps put a lower wedge in, just like most sectors, came above it. And then today, not the greatest candle, right? It opened above it, but at least it gave you a way to sell it. So I use sell rules. So, like this morning, we opened up and the futures were stronger. So if you sold some strength and then it didn't hold the prior high, which is right here, you get out of the way and you have to deal with this move lower. What's the IWM doing? The IWM is, down $1.79. Some people are like, hey, well, look at the size of the move. Of course, you knew that was coming. Did you? Arik is asking from the chat. He wants me to go over CAMT. So let's do that. You want to see what that looks like? I'll do the quick take. Gapped above this area yesterday. Probably came in more than you would have wanted if you were looking for follow through. But overall, as long as it holds this little gap here, this is fine. You would think it consolidates, and you had a big channel for a while. Not bad. We could do a little. Let's do a little quick fire. So you want this? So at this point, hopefully you sold a little bit, and as long as it digests above this channel, you probably look good. Jason's asking me about RDNT. Let's see RDNT. Looks. I don't know if this was a real print, but it's a little loose and wide yesterday. But overall, it's above the moving averages, making highs. Looks like yesterday was your day to be in it. Today you're getting some follow through. Nice chart, nice stock. I don't trade this one, but technically, looks like it plays by the rules. Every time, it breaks above a big channel-ish, it gives you a little bit of follow through, and it's been playing with the 21-day and holding there since. Robert's asking about ONON. I don't know. ONON, I made a lot of money, and this was actually the funny stock that I gave to Portnoy here. And he made, I think, over 6 figures. He put $1 million in. And I got him out literally into that move. I do have 4 or 5 pairs. This whole group isn't great. Some people are like, well, it's not great because ONON's stealing their lunch. Overall, I don't have a real thesis on it. Technically, it looks like crap. But most of the names that look good going to earnings have been sold. Most of the names where the bar was really lowered, it's been better. But then you look at some of the other high end, like Lulu, broken, not the Lulu of the past. You look at Nike, broken, big gap down below all the moving averages. So this group is not in favor at all. So it's going to need some kind of really, really big earnings to set this thing back in motion. And I don't know if all the other apparel type of high-end names are all lower because ON is still on their lunch. But to me, I don't think I'm gonna play it. It's not like I have analysts out there and people on the street pounding the pavement. I would say if you were gonna take long and thinking it's gonna be a great quarter, you could buy the $37 calls or maybe even low one and put on a call spread. But for me, I have nothing on. This was calculated. This, you had a nice move. A downtrend line technically looked great. It seemed like some of the fundamental narratives were lining up, and now here we are a quarter later, and it just doesn't look like it's like you're flipping a coin here, except for there's not as much priced in as the last time. So I would take options if you're going to do anything. And if you wanted to take a 35 by 37 or 37 by 40, that's what to do. Snap. Snap was great. Snap was probably one of my best plays a week or two ago. We took options, and again, I'm not going to brag about it because we lost a bunch of times in options, but these options were awesome. Then it gave you a post earnings low, and we had this on as a power play also, and then it took out 1534 and went to as high as here. I got out of it, and now it looks like it's coming in a little bit. It's still holding the 8-day, but this was a great play. Go to the weekly chart, I guess, to really take a look at it. It's, I guess you could say that it just got rejected into resistance. Maybe a little bit of a topping tail. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that interesting right now. If you're in it still, congratulations. No, it's because spending is falling off. And what, Joseph? Hey, what up, Joseph? PayPal.
I think he probably means a consumer. So like Uber was a mess. Starbucks.
Right. High-end stuff is not selling. So, I read a report about the consumer the other day and how post-pandemic they went from goods to experiences, right? Everybody wanted to get out of the house and travel and fly and this and that. So you had everyone first bought everything they wanted for their houses because they couldn't leave their houses, and that was awesome. They got the checks, they got the this, and then they went to services, and now it feels like we're starting to see the economy slow a little bit, right? How many rate increases do we have? Inflation is sticky, and I know me also. I make good money, but I'm still I watch what I spend now. I know my savings bled a little bit compared to back in the day. So if I don't even have a credit card. I can't imagine if people have credit cards and they have 20 to 25%, monthly carrying costs. So the consumer is getting hurt, and they're probably not going for the high end stuff. So maybe that is why, Lulu, that was a darling, is not a darling anymore. Went from being a cult stock to breaking the 8-21 day. Nike, which kind of mainstream also, has been broken for a while. So maybe ON, which is a high-end sneaker. I think it's like 100 and a quarter to 150. Maybe people just aren't going out there and spending as much. So if you want to extrapolate it fundamentally, then do it that way. For me, it's not something I'm willing to throw 5, 10, 15 grand into right now because it's not that easy to make. So I'm not just putting it into an earnings play. PayPal. Another a stock that's fallen from graces. It had a gap up, they sold it, and if you gap up above a resistance and they sell it, chances are it's cooked, and it's right back in here. And there's nothing good about this chart right here. I actually bought Square yesterday, and I actually sold it, thank goodness, into some strength, and then this fell to hold here also. So this, not great. So listen, for as good as the market's been, it's very, very selective on what names are working. Toast. Let's see that one. Toast had a great move a day or two ago. I wonder if it held it or gave it back. No, it did. This was a nice, this was part of my 2024 thesis. This is one of my focus names that paid a lot of people who buy the names that I put in there. This is actually working. This is holding fine, consolidating. So I would say as long as, if it wants to be super duper special, hold this spot, and maybe it's building a bull flag, I guess. But that acted well. It's good to see a name actually break out and hold higher versus just, give it all back. Mikey, what happened over there? Did you get your delivery?
Unfortunately, no. I am still waiting. How about Alibaba? Because they're reporting next week. China's a big topic.
Baba, China. Listen, in another one of our reports where I said you could allocate money to FXI and to KWeb over the next 2 years every month, and I do think that China just went through their 2007, 2008 real estate crisis and liquidity, rebalance. So anyway, Baba had a decent move. It's actually funny. I said I can get to 82. Where'd it go? Almost there. It's going sideways. I don't know. It had its oversold bounce move. It had a nice air. It's acting better. If you were going to take this, what'd you say earnings are when? May 14th.
I can look it up, but it's
Fine. It
it's
says
coming
right
this
there,
week.
May 14th. So I would just do options, like maybe do an 82 by $87 call spread. Looks decent. The names are, a little bit more glass half full than glass half empty lately. So if you look at the the weekly chart, hasn't done a whole hell of a lot of anything. This goes to show you the last time I looked at this was a long time ago, because it hasn't been that interesting. So overall, it just had a move, but how much of a move did it really have? If you look at, by the way, when it broke and when the momentum broke, and so if this did want it to just continue, why couldn't this get up towards here, which would be huge? I'm not saying it's going to get there. It's on 113. This was 319. This is like 150. So if you were going to play it into numbers, which I have no conviction on, I would say, looking at this chart, I would buy the 82s and like maybe sell the 87s. You're probably risking like $1.50 to make, a double or triple. So
Okay.
that's what I would do with Baba.
How about somebody's asking about Baidu?
Probably the same thing. Baidu, a lot of AI news. The news with what's it called, Tesla. It did give you a quick move. Actually, we said it can go to the 200-day or the whatever this was, 112-ish. It did a red dog reversal sell, and now it's coming a little bit. Get a lot of these things just had their broken bounces, and now the question is, will it have traction? And from here on, it's a little bit harder. This too is like a fallen leader that's trying to like rebuild itself and be reborn. But right now, these Chinese names, and then Biden came out 100% tariffs on EVs or this or that. I just think there's easier stuff out there. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to be in battleground names that look good one day, and then all of a sudden you get some news that totally negates the action, and it's out of left field. A lot of things could happen with China out of left field. So I think there's more than enough action in like the FXI and the KWeb that if you wanted Chinese exposure, we bought a lot of calls on those things, and that really worked out. Like FXI, look at the move in FXI, even better than Baidu. This is better than Baba, and you could have made that much more money. At this point, it's a little extended for a sell, but we had it here. Then we had it here. Remember when me and Liz Clayman were on? We talked about it in like January or February when it crossed this downtrend, which was right here. So I would say the FXI probably can get up to 32-ish. So you're better off just, playing the what's it called? If you think China is going to rebound, play the ETFs versus picking out individual names, because you might think China is going to bounce and you could be in the wrong Chinese name. But this does look like we can see 32-ish, but it's already halfway there, and just know your time frame.
Okay, Scott, we're coming up on 3:30. How much longer do we have you?
I think what time did we start at 2:30 or 2:45?
2:45.
Yeah. Listen, I probably have to get back to the alpha team. I want to trade the close, and I have some things I got to do. So at this point, all I'll say is, we had a really good 3-week move. I tried to be as transparent as possible by telling you when I was buying my wife's blood in the street account. We're already like 250 handles above it. Also, we did pretty well trading actively. These little 60-second videos are really funny. Our guy, he speeds them up sometimes. I really don't drink that much coffee, but he has to fit it in 60 seconds. So don't make fun of me. I have to be a little bit more aware to, when I talk about a name, give it 60 seconds. But a lot of people like the quick 60-second one-off idea based on individual stocks. And a lot of them have worked well. Some, easier than others. So as you approach next week, I feel like, today we might not close on the lows or on the highs. I think the high of the day is in the low of the day. I would think Monday is going to be an inside day. And then we see what you might want to take for Friday calls if you think the CPI and PPI are going to be kind of light and you don't want to miss a move to the upside. You're better off doing with options, because if it is hot, we just came a long way. So we'll see where we are on Monday, see how we're going to go into that. I'm going to probably be lighter into the weekend just because a lot of the names I went after or have been in, I either sold into strength or a little bit erratic, and they're not worth it. But I am in Microsoft for for next week. Just I'm still in stock and I'm in options. I do think that if it hangs in there, there's a quadrant to fill. I'm still in Amazon, even though Amazon was a pain in the butt overall. Still holding the 8-day, and maybe at some point it gets a little bit more traction. So I'm still in options for that. And then we'll see what happens with the usual suspects. Don't have FOMO. Don't be in a rush. Have multiple plans, and there's so many different time frames and approaches to the market. Trying to figure out how to do a little bit of each of them, and then when they all come together, that's how you make some serious progress and some serious coin, and that's how you get ahead. And if you're not, this morning I did a little video from the ice barrel talking about 2 words that could change your life. First of them is say thank you. Why I say thank you? Because that means you have gratitude for getting up in the morning. If you could wake up out of bed, that's half the battle. So say thank you for waking up. Say thank you for the opportunity to approach the day. Next 2 words are stop complaining. Nobody wants to hear you complain. Nobody wants a Debbie Downer or that's probably shouldn't be saying that, but someone who just complains. Nobody wants to hear it. And then the next thing is you say my fault. Okay, typically, it's not the situation; it's your approach to the situation, right? Midway through the week, I was short a lot of premium. It wasn't because it was the market's fault. It's because I was short a little premium, and thank goodness I adjusted, get out of the way, and then get my clock clean this week. So usually, if you say it's my fault because you're not happy with the situation, chances are you're honest with yourself on how do you change the situation. So this way, next time you approach it differently and you have a different, much better outcome. So stop complaining, say thank you, and say it's my fault. And typically, I think things can get better for you. And if things are great for you, cheers. Don't get over your skis. Have a great weekend.
All right, everybody. And remember, Sunday is Mother's Day, so call your mom.
Oh, and buy her flowers, no matter what she says. Make sure to get her flowers, because one day she might not be here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back again next Friday afternoon. Have a wonderful weekend. And all the moms and grandmas out there, happy Mother's Day.
Yes. And for your wife, get your wife some flowers too. She's the mother of your child or children.